This is Ian Bailey with Ian on Torah. I'm going to begin a series now of explaining the different Sefirot, Sefiros, as they relate to the 49 Sefiros in Kabbalah, and they match up with the Sefiros of HaOmer. I'm not going to go through each exact Sefira. I'm going to try to give at least 7 explanations, one for each week of the Omer, Chesed week, Gevurah week. If you want to go back, I did tweet out for at least 2 years an idea for each of the 49 Sefiros. So at 7 ways on Twitter. That was in the past. I believe put on the Facebook page as well, if you want to go back in the annals. So just pull out my notes here. Okay, introduction and Chesed. So introduction. What are the Sefiros? So people misunderstand Kabbalah. People think Kabbalah is a magical, mystical way to conjure up spells and create, demons and speak to them. So the main parts of Kabbalah are ways of understanding the universe. It's more of a philosophical, insight-oriented discipline. And, just like we have the Torah and Midrash explains a deeper level, Kabbalah is a deeper, nested level of explaining the Torah. And it's and specifically the 7 Sefiros, which are really 10 and 11. There are ways of explaining, the Torah itself, what happened in the lives of Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, etc., the Ushpizin, the shepherds, Roim, and there are ways of explaining things in the universe, organizing things. So there's a process: Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes. Like a rose bush grows and is trimmed, and it looks like a beautiful entity. That's sort of along the lines of Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes. But even the development of in the life of a person, you let the child just go on their own, then you teach them and instruct them, and things like that. So the Sefiros are the building blocks of the universe. They're the building blocks of a development of something, of how Israelites developed in the desert, how God sustained us in the desert, of the lives of how the Roim, how the Ushpizin, 7 major figures, molded Israel. So let's first explain the word Chesed, and then how it relates to the journey from Pesach to Shavuos. All right, so any Hebrew word, especially these key words in Kabbalah, it's really Kabbalah light, believe me. We're not delving into the most deepest parts of it. But so it means, Chesed is not just kindness or giving. That's part of it. We'll get to that. Chesed means to expand without restraint. To do something without asking why, or without din. To do something without passing judgment. Because if you pass judgment on what you're giving to, you would never give to it. It's a large mass with no molding. Okay, so why do we call giving a chesed? Because when you're giving to someone, you're trying to help their survival. Chesed means to give and to support life. So when you're giving to someone, you're supporting their life, you're supporting them as an existent entity. But if you did din, which is Gevurah is self-restraint or attack, and din is to judge something. Chesed and Gevurah are opposites. So to judge something means, I should not give to this entity. I should not give someone this money. No, but in general, we give more than we judge. Sometimes you don't give, actually. But if someone has a need, you just do it. You just give. That is why doing a chesed, a kindness, a loving kindness, is called chesed. However, Abraham is also called chesed, and even though we picture Abraham in his tent, Abraham had such a broad life. It touched upon many other things. Sometimes he killed people for chesed. Whoa. Sometimes he fought a war to save Lot. So what Abraham did was, Abraham was a part of a society, and he removed himself from that society to become his own type, so to speak. He went forth without asking why I should stay. Also, Abraham, in Aramaic, Abraham has the exact definition of l'nisachah. So Abraham means components. Abraham was, Chesed is a huge, my daughter calls it a mishkababel. It's a huge ambrosia of parts. And Gevurah is a bunch of details. So you have, let's say you have a whole big pile, and you take out parts of it. That's also Chesed and Gevurah. Chesed is everything together. If you have everything, you have nothing. By giving boundaries and definition, you actually create something, paradoxically. So Abraham was a person part of a huge jumble, and he himself took himself out to become his own klal, so to speak, to become his own identity, and then many people came from him. He became his own chesed, he became his own jumble, and what came from him was a lot of others that grew out from that. Within the seven Sefirot is an underlying subtext of what's called klal uprat. Klal uprat are ways, there is Talmudic language. It's a way to understand the Torah. The Torah says you should always do this, but it's limited to this. So chesed is called the klal. It's just a general jumble. It's a general amassing. And gevura is prat. It's a specific item. So when we say Nimrod was the enemy of Abraham, so that's actually the Midrash coming in there. Nimrod is mentioned in the Torah, but when our sages keep saying that he was the guy who built the Tower of Babel, he was the guy who tested Abraham by keeping him underground, he's actually a symbol. We don't know that happened historically, but he's a symbol for repression, for unhealthy gevura. If things are repressed and restrained too much, it chokes the proverbial bunny rabbit. It destroys what's there. Too many boundaries also destroys. There has to be a balance of chesed and gevura. So Nimrod is trying to keep Abraham repressed, his expression of truth repressed. And also, if you look at the Tower of Babel, it's basically communism. One person controlling everyone. Don't spread out. Stay together. All the bricks are identical. Everyone should be the same. So that is chesed versus gevura. Did we touch upon all the definitions? Let me look at my notes. To expand without restraint. The universe, Olam Chesed Yibana, the world was created with chesed. Like the Ramban says, God created a speck, and there was a Jewish Big Bang that came from it. And then God said, die. God Shaddai is God's name. Enough. He put definition on the growth of the universe. Okay. So, when we go from leaving Egypt to the giving of the Torah, the steps begin with chesed. We said to God what's called a chesed. We want to go to the desert, we won't ask where the food's going to be in the water. That is a chesed. God takes us out of Egypt, even though we're not 100% deserving, and gives us food. That's chesed. He supports our life. There's clouds, there's water. He gives us sustenance. That is chesed. It's just giving without asking too many questions. And just to get a little bit more advanced, I'll give you another sefira for the first 7 days of the HaOmer. Yesod shebechesed. So this sefirot's work is there's chesed shebechesed, gevura shebechesed, the chesed within chesed, the gevura within chesed. So even though I say the words backwards, it really means the primary thing is chesed. So yesod shebechesed, where do you find yesod in chesed? Where do you find a connectivity within chesed? On a simple level, when we give people food and shelter, that can create a bond between us as people. It's a psychological phenomenon, sociological phenomenon. But also, we heard a wonderful class one time that why is the seventh day of Pesach, why is it Yesod Shebechesed? Because if you look at the story of the splitting of the sea, the whole thing is contrived. They weren't really trapped. God told them to go there. The Egyptians were here. They weren't really safe. But God made a dramatic event and tells Moshe, don't daven, just go. Because sometimes when we do things for no reason, that creates a bond. Sometimes when you do something in a relationship that is just so over the top or special, romantic, that itself is a connective item. So that is the seventh day of Pesach. It's the day of connectivity. So that's the basic understanding of chesed on the conceptual level. And with Abraham, Abraham had all types of chesed. He went out to help people, and later on in life, he made an orchard to help people. It's also giving, but he said, you know what, I'm more developed now. Wait for them to come to me. Later in life, I need to do chesed in my own family. I got to get remarried, be stable, watch out for my son. I'm not doing worldwide chesed. So may we all start this Pesach holiday with the way that the Jews did in the desert. We should all say, we're just going to do it for no reason. We're going to go now, and then we'll understand later the giving of the Torah.